Tracking the transfer portal so you don't have to here at the Voice of College Football. If you enjoy the discussion, debate, and analysis, please hit the like button. Also, share the videos out on social media. So again, if you enjoy the content, others will as well. People on Facebook and Twitter that follow you don't know we're here talking college football every day. And subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live, which was just about every day. I have gone through the transfer portal, which has topped out over 1,000 total players, hundreds of quarterbacks, and listed my 12 most important quarterback transfers, and then a list of about, 6 other guys who have transferred or are in the portal but have yet to sign with anyone else. So here are the 12 that have moved on. At number 12, we've got Chase Bryce. Of course, he started his career at Clemson. He went to Duke and got beat up with the Blue Devils last year in the ACC, and now on to Appalachian State, where he should do a lot more winning like he did at Clemson. Appalachian State, of course, owns the Sun Belt Conference typically. In 2018, Chase Bryce was the guy that completed the pass to save Clemson's undefeated season. Sure, Clemson still would have won the ACC and probably still accomplished what they did in winning a national championship, but they went 15-0 historically at that moment, at that time. And if he didn't come in relief of Trevor Lawrence and play really well, completing a 4th and 6 difficult throw, 4th and 6 against Syracuse to pull that one out, Syracuse would have won the game at Clemson. 63% completion percentage that year, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. Then he moves on to, my goodness, on to Duke after throwing 4 touchdowns and a pick in 2019 and just had a rough year with the Blue Devils. 55% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 15 picks for arguably the worst team in the conference. Chase Bryce was the 17th rated pro-style quarterback coming out of high school football in 2017. Jarrett Garantano has moved on from Tennessee to Washington State and got away from that mess in Knoxville. All right, when he first took the reins as a freshman quarterback at Tennessee, and he's pretty much been the starting quarterback since his freshman year, the offensive line at Tennessee was not up to SEC standards. Jeremy Pruitt did one thing there, and Butch Jones actually did the groundwork, and then Jeremy Pruitt actually improved the offensive line considerably for Garantano, but he didn't play much better behind a good offensive line his final season. 61% per completion percentage for his career, 38 touchdowns, 17 picks, and he threw for over 6,100 yards. We're talking about the number 1 rated quarterback in the 2016 class, a top 100 player nationally. Jarrett Garantano moves on from Tennessee to Washington State. All right, at number 10, got James Blackman, another often criticized quarterback playing for a downtrodden former elite program at Florida State. Now he's moved on to Alabama State. James Blackman, of course, was a skinny bean of 170 pounds when he was called in to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide in the third quarter of a 24-7 loss against the best team in the country, the number 1 team that eventually won a national championship. DeAndre Francois went down in the opener. Blackman came in and took on the Tide, and that was a difficult assignment, of course. And then he finished the 2017 season gaining a ton of valuable experience, 19 touchdowns, 11 picks for a team that went 7-6, but was, from a talent perspective, better than that. Still had the bad offensive line, though, and Blackman basically regressed, as did the rest of the team in the program since 2017. 5,400 yards, 61% completion percentage in his career, 43 touchdowns, 26 picks, and he was the 16th rated pro-style quarterback coming out in 2017. James Blackman moves on from Florida State to Alabama State. Number 9, we stay in the ACC for another quarterback. That's 3 out of 4. Bayley Hochman, number 1 rated quarterback in his class of 2019. Now, North Carolina State had a nice season last year in going 8-3 in the regular season before losing a bowl game to Kentucky. But Bayley Hochman didn't have the best of seasons. 62%, 14 touchdowns, and 15 picks. But again, all that ceiling for Bayley Hochman, you would think he would go to a better program. He moves on from NC State to Middle Tennessee State as a former number 1 quarterback in his class. At number 8, we got Hendon Hooker, better runner than passer, despite the statistics. Passing looked pretty good. Going from Virginia Tech to Tennessee to most likely be the starter here in 2021. In 2019, the 2017 prospect, who was the number 11 dual threat quarterback in his class, hit for 13 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions in 2019, 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Then in 2020, last year, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks, 65% completion percentage, but he tacked on 9 touchdowns. So again, 22 touchdowns, 7 picks, good ratio for Hendon Hooker, but if you watch him play, definitely better runner than passer, now playing for the Vols. On to number 7, we stay in the SEC with Ryan Hielinski. Moves from South Carolina to Northern Illinois. Or Northwestern, Ryan Hielinski now at Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald for a second consecutive season. Northwestern to be led by a transfer quarterback. It was Peyton Ramsey moving on from Indiana to Northwestern and leading the Wildcats to a Big Ten championship game appearance. So Ryan Hielinski in 2019 for South Carolina, 58% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. And he, of course, led the big win on the road against Georgia, 15 for 20 in that game. In 2019, he was the second-rated pro-style quarterback coming out of Orange, California. Ryan Hielinski now will take snaps for Northwestern and most likely will win that starting job. We move up to number 6 and another South Carolina quarterback, Jake Bentley. South Carolina, where he set records and is one of the all-time passing leaders at South Carolina. Moved on to Utah for a brief stint in 2020, and now he's on to South Alabama for Jake Bentley. So times have changed for him. We're talking about the number 12 pro-style quarterback in his class of 2016. He is the 3rd all-time leading passer in South Carolina history, number 3 in touchdowns thrown as well. Once threw for 510 yards and putting up 42 points against Clemson. 27 touchdowns in 2018 for Jake Bentley at South Carolina. The number 2 statistic in that category in South Carolina history, 61 touchdowns, 38 picks in his career, and just 6 touchdowns and 6 picks, performing rather marginally for Utah in 2020. Jake Bentley now at South Alabama, so the mighty have fallen. South Carolina, Utah, and now South Alabama for Bentley. At number 5, Grant Gannell. Arizona once took the job of Khalil Tate to a certain extent. Played much better than Tate near the end of Tate's career. Of course, Khalil Tate was a flash in the pan, really hit the ground running, and pardon the pun, but was the most prolific quarterback on the ground in Pac-12 history in many ways. And then Grant Gannell took over the job for an injured Tate in 2019. Threw 9 touchdowns, only 1 pick for Kevin Sumlin, but he couldn't save Sumlin's job. In 2020, 6 touchdowns and 2 picks for a winless Wildcats team. The 15th rated pro-style quarterback in 2019, Grant Gannell, moves on from Arizona now to Memphis. Our number 4 quarterback, this a bit of a surprise considering the program he's leaving, his success there, and his youth. Tyler Shook leaves Oregon, goes to Texas Tech. Last year, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks, 67% completion percentage. Oregon won the Pac-12 championship, kind of in an odd way. They didn't win the division, but of course, because of COVID, Washington had to sit. Oregon won the Pac-12 championship game. Tyler Shook was the starting quarterback the whole season. Again, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks in just 6 games. They move on to the Fiesta Bowl. They lose to Iowa State. He said after that game that he was going to be coming back to Oregon. He actually jumped in his car with his parents and went back to Arizona because the family home is so close to the Fiesta Bowl. But he didn't make it back to Oregon. He is moving on to Texas Tech and Matt Wells' team as the 7th rated pro-style quarterback in 2018. Tyler Shook playing for the Red Raiders this year. One of the reasons why, we will tell you soon. Jack Cohn, Wisconsin to Notre Dame. A couple high-profile programs, and he'll most likely be suiting up as the starting quarterback against the Badgers this season for the Irish. He led Wisconsin to a Rose Bowl appearance in 2019, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks, 70% completion percentage. Of course, he had Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. Yeah, they went to the Big Ten championship game. They went to the Rose Bowl, almost won it, and he went 23 of 35 in that game with a touchdown and a pick. But Graham Mertz established himself, actually took advantage of Cone getting hurt preseason of 2020, and because of the injury in the shortened season, Cone didn't have enough time to get back. Graham Mertz took the job, and the five-star probably owns it now. And Cone could see the writing on the wall. 20th rated pro-style quarterback in 2017. Now for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. At number 2 on our list of transfer quarterbacks who have found a home, Mackenzie Milton from Central Florida to Florida State. Stays in state, and he won a whole lot of football games for the Knights. 67% completion percentage in 2017, over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, throwing 9 picks. And, of course, UCF ran the table, won all their games, beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. Then the next season, he won all of his games, but he got injured late in the season against South Florida after he threw 25 more touchdowns and 6 picks, and Central Florida finally lost a game with Mackenzie Milton on the sideline. He hasn't taken a snap since late in the season in 2018. This is now going to be 2021. So he missed the entirety of 2019 recovering, all of 2020, of course, a shortened season. There was some speculation that he might get back in the lineup late in the season, but it just didn't happen. What a remarkable run for him. He was the starting quarterback for most of 2016. He went 4-6. Since then, 23-0 for Mackenzie Milton. That sounds good to Mike Norvell right now. 23-0 for Milton, who was the, 90th rated, not quarterback, athlete in the 2016 class. And the 4 digits there, 1,161st rated athlete, but he's made the most of his career. 92 total touchdowns at UCF. He's now going to try to turn around the Florida State offense. Mackenzie Milton at 2. And number 1, how about Charlie Brewer? Moving from Baylor to Utah. Another good program for Charlie Brewer. So Jake Bentley moves on. Charlie Brewer fills the void. Under Matt Rule and Charlie Brewer, the Baylor Bears went from 1 win to 7 plus a bowl win, and then to 11 and almost winning the Big 12 championship game. They lost in overtime, a game in which Brewer was hurt against Oklahoma in 2019. Graduate transfer, almost 10,000 yards passing at Baylor, 65 TDs, 28 picks, 64% completion percentage, 87 touchdowns passing from Charlie Brewer. Just the 36th rated pro-style quarterback. So consider this. Our number 1 and 2 quarterbacks, one wasn't even rated as a quarterback, Mackenzie Milton. The other one was numbered 36 in the rankings. They're the 2 lowest guys out of the 12 I selected. So the recruiting rankings don't individually always mean everything. Our number 1 transfer quarterback, Charlie Brewer, moving from Baylor to Utah. Okay, we got 6 more who have yet to find a home. Joe Milton at Michigan, of course, he won the starting job and lit it up against Minnesota in week 1, and then he faltered. Poor game against Indiana with a couple picks that were costly despite throwing for 3 touchdowns. 32 of 51 against Michigan State for over 300 yards and a loss, and then he just got worse by the week and got benched against Rutgers and never saw the field again. So Joe Milton moves on from Michigan. At number 5, we've got Jawan Pass, who threw 14 touchdowns and 13 picks at Louisville, where his career has been as long as Mackenzie Milton. It goes all the way back to 2016, but for the first time, he's not going to be wearing the Cardinal Red of Louisville. At number 4, Austin Kendall. He's already transferred once from OU to West Virginia. Now he's looking for another home. Most of his work in 2019, where he's thrown 17 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in his career. All right, at number 3, we've got Terry Wilson at Kentucky. Highly successful quarterback that leaned on the running game, his own running as well, but Benny Snell, of course, and a strong defense at Kentucky, where in 2018 he led a top 10 team that went 10-3, beat Penn State in a bowl game, and again finished in the top 10. 67% completion percentage that year, 11 touchdowns and 8 picks. Only played in 2 games in 2019, came back this season as the Cats went won a bowl game against North Carolina State. Wilson threw for 7 touchdowns and 4 picks. He has 10 career rushing touchdowns. Our number 2 quarterback who has yet to find a home is Nikosi Perry from Miami, of course. As a freshman, he sat behind the senior Malik Rozier, finally got into the starting lineup, played considerably, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. Then in 2019, probably at his best game in a loss, where he came in down 28-0 to Virginia Tech at home. Then he just really started to sling it, 422 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. And then in 2020, and backing up De'Ara King, had maybe his finest hour as a Cane in his final appearance. As De'Ara King got hurt early in that game, the Canes were down 21-0, and Nikosi Perry played extremely well, and the stats won't bear it out totally because there were so many dropped passes in that game, but he threw it well. He spun it for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns as Miami almost came back for the win in the bowl game. And number 1, our quarterback who has yet to find a home is Alan Bowman from Texas Tech, and now we see that Tyler Shook has moved from Oregon to Texas Tech, filling that gap left by the departure of Alan Bowman. From 2018 to 2020, he threw for 33 touchdowns and 17 interceptions, 67% completion percentage for Bowman. So if your team needs a quarterback, it's Milton. It's Pass, Kendall, Wilson, Perry, and Bowman. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If we missed anyone, we looked at the entire list. Any other transfer quarterbacks that you're interested in, leave it down in the comment section below. And we will see you next time.